Hey, a quick info before we get into this video. If it reached 100 likes, I will make this gaming PC build. Really help me revive this channel. I've been through a lot this year and it's time to take it back. So we're looking at a $500 gaming PC build with a Ryzen 5 5600G. What are you waiting for? Let's get to it. Now for the CPU, GPU, aka APU, the Ryzen 5 5600G, $259 a Newegg, $300 on Amazon. I don't know why I wouldn't get it from Amazon. I'm gonna get it from Newegg if you actually press on that like button and subscribe. Anyways, I really like this APU given the performance it provides. You can't play any game. Like, it doesn't give you the best performance in the world, but you can play any game you want. Plays games like, for example, we're gonna take a look at 5 games pretty quick, and if you wanna see the full benchmarks, I will link the sources down below. A game like Fortnite, you're getting around 100 to 120 frames per second. Pretty cool to get from a PC like that. 1080p, low settings, performance mode, whatever is going on with Fortnite right now. I really miss this game. A game like Warzone at 1080p, medium to low settings, you're getting around 60 frames per second with some dippings here and there. And you know, when the next seasons and the next updates arrive, I'm pretty sure it can go under 60 frames per second, but you can lower the res to 900p or 720p, for example. Red Dead Redemption, it plays it at 1080p, medium to low settings, maybe medium to high, even at 30 frames per second. Cyberpunk 2077, we're looking at pretty crazy 35 frames per second from a really crappy underdeveloped game. So a very good graphical power inside this APU, but when it comes to the processing power, it's a 6 cores 12 threaded CPU compared to a Ryzen 5 5600X. I more see it between a Ryzen 5 3600 and a 5600X, because in terms of performance in the very GPU intensive games, it performs as a 5600X, but when it comes to the FPS driven games, oh my god, we're looking at a huge gap. Like, look at CSGO benchmarks, for example. You see like 50 to 60 frames per second difference. It's a good upgrade. You can play games at 1080p 240 frames per second if you packed in a very dense GPU with it, but there's always that big gap between it and the 5600X, but that doesn't mean it's bad. When you compare it to something like an i5 11400, which is the best comparison to it, it gets the job done. All in all, a really great APU for $260. I wish we could have seen anything cheaper than this. Hopefully we will, but the fact that we fit this in a $500 budget is great. For the board, we're looking at an ASRock B550M HTV or a Gigabyte B450M DS3H version 2. It depends on whatever you find in stock. I mean, this is the last gen CPUs you'll find on the AM4 platform, so there isn't much going on there. So yeah, get whatever you find in stock. As for the RAM, we're looking at 2 8GB sticks of 16 gigs DDR4 3600 MHz RAM, because it's an APU. You will have to overclock, at least very minor overclocking, and you will have to use higher frequency RAM because it benefits greatly from it. And 3600 gets the trick. For the SSD, we're looking at 500 GB SSD for around, I believe, $45. If you wanna spend an extra $30 on a 1TB SSD, by my guess, you'll go over the budget by this $30. It's all you, but hey, in order to fit the budget, we went with that. As for the power supply, we're looking at an EVGA 450 watt bronze certified power supply, and this is one of the best times you can get a power supply right now because it's pretty darn cheap. Like, even if you're not getting a gaming PC at this time, power supplies are very cheap right now, and I suggest, you know, take advantage of that. Maybe they'll get more expensive in the future. And SSDs too, they're all very cheap. So yeah, even if you can't find a GPU, you can't find this APU, you don't have actually the essential parts to build a PC right now, power supplies are very much cheap and worth it, to be honest. As for the case, I'll leave it to you really. But hey, I really liked the Cooler Master Q300L, maybe the design, the simplicity. I didn't like RGB. When I turn off, you know, my room lights, it just, you know, it's right there and I can't sleep from it. It's very distracting and I have a lot of anxiety problems, you know. So no, I'm not a fan of RGB, but if you are, there is the Monte case. There are a lot of RGB options out there. But Cooler Master Q300L, $40 I believe, and it looks really good, looks really different from the other $40 cases. So that's been it, guys. 100 likes and I'll make this gaming PC build, but just let me know what do you think down in the comments below. I'm putting myself in a huge bet, and subscribe. This helps me a lot. Peace.